Carson Beck. Wow, the new quote-unquote mailman at quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs. I call him the mailman because Stetson Bennett used to be called the mailman for Georgia back when he was the quarterback for those national championship runs. Now Carson Beck gets to replace Stetson Bennett at the quarterback position. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Carson Beck winning the starting job for the Georgia Bulldogs. Carson Beck will be tasked with trying to get Georgia to win their third consecutive national championship. As of right now, no collegiate program has ever won 3 consecutive national championships. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with a topic question. So, here it is. Will Carson Beck lead Georgia to another national championship victory? The answer to that question is, of course, he's going to lead them to a national championship victory. Not only is Carson Beck going to lead them to a national championship victory, he will never lose a game as a starting quarterback. He will never lose a single game in his collegiate career, or at least for this upcoming season. He'll never lose an out-of-conference game. He'll never lose an SEC game. He'll never lose an SEC championship game. He's not going to lose in the college football playoff, and he's not going to lose in the national championship. This Carson Beck guy is going to lead the Georgia Bulldogs to victory, and I say that not necessarily because Carson Beck is a great quarterback, but because of the fact that any Georgia quarterback could lead them to victory. That's how dominant the Georgia Bulldogs are. They're stacked all over the place. Running back, receiver, tight ends, offensive line, defensively, they're also very historically stacked as well. They just keep building historic units year in and year out. And then you think about the fact how they got Kirby Smart, who's one of the best coaches in all of college football. Georgia right now is the standard in college football. When I was a kid growing up, I used to see Alabama win all the time. They used to be the standard of college football. In 2023, that is no longer the case. Although Alabama is still a good football team, Georgia is the team that is now the standard in college football. Georgia is now the team that everybody has to fear. And I also look at Georgia's schedule, and I think it's not that hard. I don't think Georgia's schedule is overly difficult. It's not like they play against ranked opponents every week. It's not like they play against stacked teams every single week. It's not like they're going to be playing against teams like Ohio State every week. When you look at this Georgia team, I'm thinking worst case, like if they just absolutely sucked, if they absolutely did not even try playing the game of football whatsoever, they would go 10-2, and they could possibly even still sneak into the college football playoff. And that's if they didn't even try. They are stacked all over the place, and Carson Beck gets to enjoy being on that stacked team. I don't care who the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs is. The quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs is always going to have one of the easiest jobs in the world at the quarterback position. And I say that because of the fact that they get to rely on a good running game, great coaching, great defense, great weapons. All they got to do is not blow the game. And that's the kind of powerhouse that Georgia built. Somebody may ask, how did Georgia become so good as a team? And the answer to that question is, that's because they recruited the heck out of the southeastern region of the United States of America. And it's not even just about that. They've been dominant in recruiting. They've been dominant on the football field. They've built a tradition of winning. And they got a head coach that's freaking awesome at what he does. Kirby Smart is the best head coach in all of college football right now. It used to be Nick Saban, but that title no longer belongs to Nick Saban. That title belongs now to Kirby Smart. When you look at Georgia, their defense, their run game, their receiving core, their tight end, their offensive line blocking, they're just so much more ahead of everybody else in the country. Whether it's in the SEC, whether it's in the ACC, whether it's in the Big 12, whether it's in the Big 10, whether it's in the Pac-12 or a Group of 5 conference or a Power 5 conference, something like that. The point of the story is Georgia is just so much ahead of everybody else. They're like the Golden State Warriors in the NBA, where they were light years ahead of everybody else. This Georgia Bulldogs team is never going to lose a college football game ever again if they practice the right way, if they play the right way, and if they do what they're supposed to do. They're going to win every single game this upcoming year. Last year they went 15-0, and this year they're going to go 15-0 again. I look at their schedule for Georgia, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they need to be playing a much harder schedule. Their schedule right now is so easy. Now I'm thinking, man, I could be the quarterback for Georgia. We could win all those games. I'm looking at their schedule right now, week 1. They get to play Tennessee Martin week 1, which is just a joke of a program. Then they get to play Ball State the next week. That's going to be a massacre. So that's already going to be 2 easy non-conference victories for Georgia. Those programs might as well forfeit those games because of the fact that Georgia is just going to dominate and assault them. I think Georgia could probably play the 5th or 6th string quarterbacks, and they could probably win those games. And then they get to play South Carolina. That's not going to be overly difficult for them. I understand South Carolina is kind of underrated. I do think they are a team being swept under the radar, but South Carolina is no match for Georgia. Georgia is going to end up dominating them, and then they play UAB next. Georgia's going to win that game. Then they play Auburn next. Georgia's going to win that game. And then they play Kentucky. Georgia's going to win that game rather comfortably. Then they play Vanderbilt. That's going to be an easy win. And then they actually have a challenging game against Florida. I'm just kidding. It's not that much of a challenging game for Georgia, but Florida is not that difficult for Georgia to go ahead and beat. Georgia's going to go ahead and take care of business if they practice the right way and if they play the right way. Or if Kirby Smart decides to have the worst coaching day of his life, then of course they get to go ahead and play Missouri. That's another easy win for Georgia. And then they actually play against a ranked opponent. The crazy thing is they don't get to play a ranked opponent as we're speaking right now till Veterans Day. That's how late in the season Georgia gets to play a ranked opponent. I'm thinking, man, Georgia's already the most dominant team in college football, and that's how easy their schedule is. They could literally sleepwalk their way to 9-0. They could go 9-0 and they might not even be trying. They could just play their backups. They could play their third stringers. I know I sound very disrespectful to the competition that Georgia is playing against, but that's just how ahead Georgia is compared to everybody else. That's how dominant that they are. And then when they play against Ole Miss, okay, you're thinking, okay, that might be a competitive match. They might actually have to play for real, but who knows? Maybe Ole Miss underachieves by that point in the season, and they're also going to be unranked. So you know what, Georgia, they're going to go ahead and win that matchup as well. And then they play against Tennessee, who is going to be one of the toughest opponents in their schedule, if not the toughest opponent. I think Tennessee could certainly make some noise this upcoming year. Joe Milton is a solid quarterback for Tennessee. He's going to make some magic happen for them. He played solid for them last year. When Hendon Hooker went down to injury, Joe Milton, he can ball, he can make plays happen. I think Tennessee is going to be challenging for Georgia. They did beat Alabama last year, and I think that'll be by far Georgia's toughest opponent of the year. However, I think Georgia is going to end up taking care of business and doing what they're supposed to do, as they will end up winning that game. And then they get to play Georgia Tech, which is a cakewalk victory for Georgia. I don't care how Carson Beck plays, although I do like the way how Carson Beck plays. I do think he's a solid quarterback. He knows how to get the ball to his playmakers. He's got a very strong arm. He's very accurate with the football. He's very poised in the pocket. He's not going to be a Justin Fields type of explosive kind of player, but he doesn't need to be with the stacked team that Georgia has. All he has to be is just be on Stetson Bennett's level, which is relatively easy to do because it's not like Stetson Bennett was this great quarterback that played in college football. He was a solid quarterback, but he wasn't a great quarterback. But when you look at this Georgia Bulldogs team, they've got an identity, they've got a formula, and they know how to win football games no matter who's playing for them, whether it's a stacked defensive line, whether it's the stacked running game, whether it's the stacked receiving game, whether it's the tight ends showing up. Brock Bowers is going to be a top 5, top 10 NFL draft pick. That's how good he is. When I watch Brock Bowers play, he reminds me a lot of George Kittle. And then, of course, the offensive line is always going to be fantastic for Georgia. They are littered with 4-star and 5-star recruits all over the starting lineup. I'm just amazed about how good Georgia is in terms of their starting lineup. They look like they could be a historically awesome team. They're going to end up three-peating, and they're going to end up winning the national championship again. I don't even see who's going to be the second best college football team compared to Georgia, because it's not even going to be close. Ultimately, though, I do think the second best team in college football will end up being Ohio State. But honestly, whoever is playing college football this year, they're playing for second place, because Georgia is by far the best team in all of college football. I don't care what anybody else tells me. This Georgia team is just too stacked compared to everybody else. Georgia's backups could probably end up being ranked nationally speaking. That's how good their backups are as well. This Georgia team is looking like it could be the greatest team of all time in college football. I'm just very excited when I look at this Georgia team. This is going to be a steamroll of a competition for Georgia. They're going to win the SEC championship as well. I don't care who they play, whether it's Alabama, whether it's LSU. It don't matter to me, because Georgia is that much better than all of those teams. Although Alabama, you certainly can't count them out if they're going to run the ball a million times, because of the fact that their running game is very good, and because of the fact that Nick Saban is still the greatest coach in college football history. So maybe he could cook up a game plan to slow down Georgia, but I doubt it, because of the fact that Georgia is just a monster on the field in terms of on paper and on field production. Georgia is just unstoppable. Georgia is going to win the SEC championship no matter who they end up playing against. And who's to say that Alabama will even be able to reach the SEC championship, because LSU is now on the rise up. So if they have to play against LSU, maybe LSU ends up being Alabama, and maybe Georgia plays against LSU in the SEC championship game. But that's going to be a joke of a matchup, because Georgia is just going to run all over LSU. Brian Kelly gets outcoached in big games, and Kirby Smart is going to be coaching circles around Brian Kelly. And then, of course, they're going to be playing in the college football playoff. I don't care who they play against. I don't care if they play against Ohio State. I don't care if they play against Michigan. I don't care if they play against USC. I don't care who they play against in the college football playoff. They are going to dominate whoever they play against, just because of the fact that Georgia is so much more ahead of everybody else in college football. Carson Beck is a solid quarterback, but he also has the easiest job in the world. All he has to do is not play at an F level. If he doesn't play at an F level for Georgia football, Georgia is going to end up winning the national championship, because they're just so much better than everybody else. They're going to steamroll their way. They're going to win the national championship. Carson Beck is going to be hailed as the quarterback that led Georgia to be a 3-time national champion in back-to-back seasons. He's going to lead Georgia to the first program to have ever pulled off that feat. This Georgia core is special. They're amazing at what they do. They're going to do everything that they can in their power to make sure that they win every game in dominating fashion, and I believe that they can do that. So that is why Carson Beck Beck will lead Georgia to another national championship victory, as this will be the easiest quarterbacking job that Carson Beck will ever have to do in his career. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.